Well, thank you for viewing our Kilimanjaro and More presentation. I'm very happy to be able to speak about this beautiful mountain in Africa. I'm actually happy to be anywhere. The story you're about to view is about the latter part of 2009 and the early part of 2010. From beautiful animals to breathtaking vistas, from questionable survival to miraculous recovery. It all began with a phone call from daughter Jenny as she was planning on doing a study abroad trip in Africa, and she told me that she had the opportunity to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and asked if we'd be interested in joining her. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to challenge myself with a new activity. Karen did not agree quite as easily, but after a few weeks she warmed up to the idea, and we had about 4 or 5 months to prepare for our trip. This is a picture of the 4th of July, the Volksloft before the race on July 4th of 2009, and that afternoon after the race, Jenny got on the airplane and landed in Tanzania, which is on the east coast of Africa, close to the equator, and that started with the easy part of our adventure, where we looked at going to the Serengeti and Ngorongoro to view a lot of different wild animals. And the red area is where Mount Kilimanjaro is. The yellow area is where we had the opportunity to view many of the animals. A lot of beautiful animals that we had the opportunity to see. Giant Grant gazelles, the ostrich, elephants, and you can see that they're all up close and pretty personal. Most of these game drives were in the middle of the day, and you didn't get the best lighting. You got better lighting on these zebras here. Wildebeest doing what wildebeest do. Cape buffalo, little Cape buffalo, they're kind of watching us, but really not too concerned about us driving around. These are the kind of vehicles that we drove throughout the Serengeti and Ngorongoro. You'd stand up and drive pretty much up to these animals. And there's kind of a traffic jam here because they was probably all going to, I believe it was a leopard laying on a termite mound. These are the kind of luxury camps we stayed at when we were in the animal safari part of our adventure. This is our niece Elizabeth taking some muffins or something up to the cabin one morning, or the tent one early morning. Warthog. If you want to hear a long story sometime, I'd be able to share you all my warthog stories. But the animals were very plentiful, zebras and hippos and Cape buffaloes. Giraffe, Karen always liked the giraffes because they got the long necks, of course. Impalas, and whenever I'd see these impalas, for some reason or other, my hunting instinct came out, and I'd figure out where I'd put the crosshairs on those. Crocodiles. More elephants. And then it was time to go to the next part of our adventure. Kilimanjaro is the fourth highest lone mountain. That I believe that has to do with it's a volcanic mountain. It isn't part of a mountain ridge. As you can see, Mount Everest at 29,000 feet, and Kilimanjaro is at 19,300 feet. And Ben Nevis is a mountain, or the tallest mountain in Scotland. So Kilimanjaro is next. That was our adventure, and that was what we were gonna get to the top of that. One of the challenges was before you climb that mountain, which was 5 days up and 2 days down, was to figure out what to take and what you would carry up. And although we did have porters, we still had to narrow down to the bare minimum of what we would carry for those 7 days. The first day we started out in the rain, and you can see it's pretty tropical jungle looking, and lots of smiles. You'll notice the smiles on everybody's face at this point, and as the week goes on, you'll notice that it was a little harder to get those smiles out. Our trekking crew was myself, and then Karen, and then Jerry from the bottom, and then my sister Roxy, their youngest daughter Elizabeth, and our daughter Jenny on the top of the hill, and one of our mountain guides. The first night of our hotel, our moving hotel, so to speak. These are the tents we slept in. Jenny standing next to two of the men that prepared our, or not prepared, but were our food service, and Matthew and God bless. One of the other necessary tents was the outhouse tent, and that's something that we used quite frequently. They brought it up for us, not when we were on the trail, but at night in the campsites. And to get to that, you had lots of zips. You had 4 zips to get out of the tent we were in. Then you'd have to unzip the outhouse tent, zip it back up, and once you'd get back into your tent, there was another 4 zips to get in. So it was 36 zips per person per night, unless it was me and I had to go to the bathroom more often, or unless someone had diarrhea, which most of us developed after about the first 2 or 3 days. These are the porters that are carrying most of our gear, tents and sleeping bags and other essentials. And you can see that we made good use of climbing poles. They'd help break your descent, and were really quite helpful in the balancing of the whole gear. So this is the sunset as our first night with the mountain far away, but we're getting closer. You can see that there's very little vegetation. This was the meal tent where we had our meals, and that's my sister Roxy on the left, daughter Jenny, and brother-in-law Jerry. In the meal tent, we'd be in there pretty much for breakfast and dinner, and they would check our heart rate twice a day and our oxygen level to make sure that we were not going to have any altitude issues. The altitude on the top, or the oxygen level on the top of Kilimanjaro, is about half of what we're used to here at sea level, and it was something that we had to constantly be aware of.